25 years in production is plenty enough to call a model like Skoda Octavia a legend. Currently in the 4th generation, the Octavia has always been an ultimate no-brainer, an ultimate balance between price and quality. The 2024 Skoda Octavia is about to become even better, as the new facelifted version has just been presented. With better looks, more tech features and powertrain upgrades, the 2024 Skoda Octavia is a liftback worth waiting for. The Octavia has always been a super practical vehicle, but wasn't exactly the prettiest kid in the class. No, its styling was rather bland, forgettable. Fortunately, that changed a lot with the most recent redesign, which brought the 4th generation of Skoda's compact. For the first time, the Octavia was really attractive, and now the Czech carmaker elevates everything to the next level with the facelifted model that was presented just a few weeks ago and is about to hit the market in the summer. As a part of the Volkswagen Group, Skoda practices a similar philosophy when it comes to aesthetical changes. They're rather subtle, but in this case, they're also pretty effective. Just take a look at the new front end and you'll notice a pair of new headlights, reshaped and with a new internal design, which also involves new LED technology. Then, there's a revised front bumper with a completely new lower part that utilizes way more massive air intakes that make Octavia look way sportier. On the rear end, not many things happened. Most things remain the same, with the rear bumper being practically the only area with modifications, though quite minimal, along with new LED details on the taillights. Then, when you look from the side, you can easily notice new sets of wheels ranging from 16 to 19 inches. The officials didn't say anything about the new color options, but we may presume that the updated model will certainly come with a palette that includes a couple of new paints. The Octavia has always been famous for its spectacularly high level of practicality, but it didn't exactly feature the most exciting cabin layout. Don't get us wrong, the build quality had always been great, but aesthetics looked bland and uninspiring. Fortunately, that changed with the introduction of the current generation, and now things elevate even more with this mid-cycle refresh. Skoda's compact still isn't a VW Golf in terms of cabin layout, but the gap seems smaller than ever, especially after this update, which brings a good portion of new tech features borrowed directly from the all-electric ID.7. The first thing you'll notice is a duo of massive screens. Both digital instrument cluster and infotainment screen are good for about 10 inches diagonally, and both come as part of standard equipment. Optionally, the infotainment screen can be upgraded to 13 inches, making it one of the largest in the class. Besides bigger dimensions, Skoda officials also promise substantial improvements in terms of graphics and response, while an AI-based ChatGPT voice assistant will be added as well. The rest of the cabin keeps a familiar layout, though you can notice slight revisions on the center console. The new model also comes with new color schemes, finer materials and trim. Practicality has always been Octavia's strongest point, and of course, the updated model is about to continue in the same way. Moreover, it adds a couple of new clever details, so besides things like an ice scraper in the fuel door and umbrella in the driver's door, the new model also comes with a new tablet holder for the rear seats, as well as new storage box for occupants where they can store things like bags and bottles. As we're talking about a mid-cycle refresh, the overall layout remains the same. Just like the previous generations, this one also shares a lot of things with the VW Golf. But once again, Skoda engineers did their thing and stretched their model significantly. The wheelbase has been stretched, while the total length goes up by 405 mm, which makes VW's legendary compact look like a dwarf when compared to Skoda's counterpart. Of course, this is reflected in many ways, starting from the passenger space. Of course, the front seats are as spacious and as comfortable as you would expect in this class. Besides plenty of space and a high level of adjustability, we find Skoda seats pretty decent, so the great comfort seems guaranteed. The second row is where the benefits from a stretched wheelbase come, in the way that there's notably more legroom compared to the VW Golf. However, the most significant difference is in the back. The Octavia may feature an elegant silhouette that resembles a classic 4-door sedan, but it's actually a 5-door liftback, which makes it way more practical. Thanks to such a layout, you get a massive boot opening, along with the largest cargo area in the segment by far. This Skoda offers around 600 liters behind the rear seats, and that's a fantastic number, especially when you compare it with classmates. The Ford Focus is good for about 375 liters, the VW Golf offers 381, and the Honda Civic is good for about 404 liters of boot space. Besides the tremendous amount of space, this boot also comes with numerous tie-down points and hooks to make hauling even more practical. Then, besides the typical 60-40 rear seat split, there's also a ski hatch in the center, something you usually wouldn't expect from an economy car with a Skoda badge. With this facelift, Skoda decided not to experiment much in terms of powertrain. Even though these aren't transitional times, with the ongoing electrification happening at a pretty fast pace, the 2024 Octavia continues with familiar powertrain options, meaning it still relies primarily on petrol and diesel. Speaking of petrol engines, the offer starts with a 1.5-liter Turbo 4 that puts out 115 horsepower and 220 Nm of torque. Coupled with a 6-speed manual, this engine does seem decent, but a more powerful iteration of this Turbo 4 with 150 horsepower and 250 Nm is definitely a better choice. Then, there are a couple of electrified versions, though we are talking about mild hybrids as the only form of electrification you get in this Skoda. A mild hybrid system comes coupled with the same 1.5-liter Turbo 4, and once again there are two variants with 115 and 150 horsepower. As you can see, the power figures are the same, but the company claims that this small electric motor helps both in terms of driving dynamics and fuel economy. Still, the most significant difference is that the mild hybrid comes exclusively with the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. Finally, Skoda continues with a couple of diesel variants, both based on the well-known 2-liter TDI turbo diesel. Once again, we're talking about the same power figures, 115 and 150 horsepower, though these oil burners offer notably more torque, 300 and 360 Nm respectively. All these engines are capable of providing decent driving dynamics in combination with good fuel efficiency. From that perspective, there's nothing to complain about in terms of driving experience. Moreover, the sound insulation is also pretty good, even at higher speeds, though not exactly at the VW Golf level. Finally, there's the suspension setup. The company still hasn't provided specs of the updated model, but we're pretty sure things are about to remain the same. As we're talking about Volkswagen's well-known MQB platform, it's obvious that McPherson is at the front, and in Octavia's case, it does a pretty good job. The rear end is where things become more interesting, as there are differences in the setup depending on which version you pick. Models with less capable engines, both diesel and petrol, come with a similar setup with a torsion beam. On the other hand, more capable powertrain options also bring a more advanced rear setup, with a genuine multi-link independent suspension, but we're pretty sure that only experienced drivers will be able to notice the difference. In both cases, the Octavia does a pretty decent job of absorbing road imperfections at lower speeds. At higher speeds, everything seems perfectly fine, while Skoda's liftback also seems surprisingly agile on twisty roads, something that wasn't the case in the previous generations. Of course, the high-performance iteration of Skoda Octavia is also an integral part of this update. It gets the same visual and tech updates as standard models, but also a few additional upgrades. The most important one is the engine upgrade, as the good old 2-liter Turbo 4 has been tuned to 261 horsepower, so the Octavia RS now features the same amount of power as the Golf GTI. Of course, power is sent to the front wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, while the limited-slip front differential takes performance to the next level. Audiophiles will also notice the unique engine note, as the RS also gets an upgraded exhaust system. As mentioned, the Octavia RS also gets new aesthetics, but continues to stand out with its own unique details. More aggressive fascia is the first thing that comes to mind, along with the rest of the bodywork. Also, it's really hard not to notice the bigger and more exclusive wheels, along with the lowered ground clearance, which comes as a result of the sport suspension, which sits 15mm lower compared to standard iterations. The refreshed 2024 Skoda Octavia had a premiere a few weeks ago, but from what we know so far, sales won't start before the summer. As for the price, we're still waiting for the officials to disclose, but we can hear from several sources that base models are going to cost around £27,000 in the UK and around €25,000 in the rest of Europe. What do you think of the new 2024 Skoda Octavia? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.